Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Assembly Judiciary. Welcome to all those watching online and here in Carson City. And with that, Secretary, will you please take the roll?
Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod. Assemblywoman Cohen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Present.
Assemblywoman Gallant.
Here.
Assemblyman Gray.
Here.
Assemblywoman Hanson. Assemblywoman Hardy.
Here.
Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Here.
Assemblywoman Marzola.
Here.
Assemblywoman Mosca.
Here.
Assemblywoman Newby.
Here.
Assemblyman Ortlicker. Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong. Assemblyman Urick. Chair Miller.
Here. And please mark members present when they arrive. Please mark Assemblyman Ortlicker absent excused. Thank you. With that, on our agenda today, just a few reminders. Please, everyone, turn off your volume on your electronic devices. Also, just want everyone to know there will be a public comment section at the end of today's hearing where everyone will have 2 minutes to make public comment. The phone number is 1-888-475-4499, and the meeting ID for today is 833-636-05432. With that, we do have one bill presentation today on the agenda, but we also have a bill draft request introduction that we just received this morning. So with that, I would like to introduce BDR 14472. Do I have any discussion?
Motion.
I have a motion to for BDR 14472. Do I have a second?
Second.
And so I have a motion from Assemblywoman Newby and a second from Vice Chair Marzola. With that, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion passes. Thank you for that, members. With that, we will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is a bill hearing for Assembly Bill 292. It is to be presented by Assemblywoman Gonzalez, and I believe Keisha Westbrooks and Lilith Barrett. With that, I would like to open the hearing for Assembly Bill 292, which revises provision governing offenders. Okay. We're going to give the Assemblywoman a few minutes to get settled, and are your co-presenters on the Zoom link yet?
They don't have the link.
I'm sorry, they're what?
I guess she doesn't have the link. And she's calling right now.
Okay, we will take a 5-minute pause,
Okay.
not a recess, because I don't want anyone leaving. So a 5-minute at ease.
Good morning. Do you have to call us back?
No, we never recessed, and I
okay.
already opened the bill, so
Okay.
we're all set. Thank you.
Okay, good morning, Chair, and thank you so much to committee members. My name is Cecilia Gonzalez, representing Assembly District 16 in Las Vegas, Nevada. We are having technical difficulties with our presenters, so I'm going to do the best that I can with what I have. First off, I want to start by saying I wanted to carry this bill because of the conditions that we know that are happening in NDOC and incarcerated persons. The organizers on this bill have been working on this bill and talking to people that are currently incarcerated for over the last couple of years, and what we've submitted for this bill and the intent of the bill is kind of what has come out of that, right? The organizers have been in there talking to incarcerated folks and asking what their needs are. And pretty much the Dignity for Incarcerated Women's Act starts to change our country's approach to helping women in prison by ensuring that they are treated with dignity and respect and equipping them with tools, resources, and services that they need to be successful when they return to their families and communities. First and foremost, we are working on an amendment. So the bill that you have in front of you is not the final. We've had to take a lot of things out of the bill. However, given the short time that we've had to work not only on the bill, but just with partners as well, we recognize that there is a lot of work to be done, and we will be submitting that as well. However, we did not want to lose our place in presenting the bill because things move fast around here. So let me just check. Lily should be on the Zoom link now.
Hello.
Okay, I'm going to pass the presentation to Lily from the ACLU. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Lilith. Lily is fine. Baran, Lilithbaran. I'm from the ACLU of Nevada. I'm the policy manager, and I'm happy to help sharing and presenting this bill. I do apologize for not being there today. I have been exposed to and caught the COVID, so I will be here safe in my home until I'm free and clear. So I'm going to go ahead and actually pass it on to one of the women who helped us in crafting this bill, who is directly impacted. And her name is Keisha, and she has a really interesting story that of perseverance and of bravery that she should not have really had to experience in order to bring this bill forward. However, I know that sometimes these stories of the impacted are the ways that great legislation gets passed. So I'm going to go through the parts of the bill. We're trying to get everyone in through Zoom links, etc. Oh, she doesn't have it yet, so I'm just going to go ahead and start. The very first thing that I want to talk about is that women are the fastest growing segment of the U.S. prison population. So nationally, there are more than 8 times as many incarcerated women as there were in 1980. This is a pretty striking statistic when we think about the way that our prison population is growing. It is something that we need to make sure to take note of, especially because women have different needs than men, especially when we are talking about being incarcerated, increasing from 12,300 in 1980 to 182,271 by 2002. So more than 60% of women in state prisons have a child under the age of 18, and more than 80% of women in jail. So we're talking about not just women, but mothers. So our next thing that I would like to talk about are other states that have bills that are similar to this. 15 states have approved or are considering the Dignity for Incarcerated Women legislation. And one of them that has really strong legislation is Pennsylvania. And they require better documentation of restraint use in addition to banning restraints during birth. In Nevada, we do ban shackling. However, that does not cover all kinds of restraints. during childbirth. So it's important to understand that though we pass meaningful legislation to ban restraints, that is not all restraints. That is just shackling. So we are currently in Nevada state prisons having women give birth while in restraints of some type. They've also decided to prohibit restrictive housing for pregnant or postpartum women, and they require training related to pregnancy, postpartum, and trauma-informed care. And that's both for the correctional officers and for the women, meaning that they're able to get care as it applies to parenting and postnatal care for themselves and for their child. I'm going to pause for just a second to see if there's anyone else from the group, because I was not meant to do all of the presentation and I don't want to leave out anyone else. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Keisha. Keisha, do you want to go ahead and take over for these next few slides, and I'll come back in for the rest of the bill?
Sure. I don't see the slides, but my name's Keisha.
You can use your own. Sorry.
My name's Keisha Westbrooks, and I was sentenced to 4 to 11 years in Florence McCool Women's Correctional Center for a money crime. This happened 6 months after having a stroke. I was wheelchair bound, and my left side was paralyzed. I had special medical needs, and I went in with my doctor's records. Doctor prescribed braces and medications, and they were taken away from me, except for my wheelchair. I was refused my medication for over a year. I was in constant pain and spent a lot of money going back and forth to medical just for them to deny me. Finally, my mother had to call and complain for me to get the resolution that I needed. But they only gave me half of the prescribed amount of medication, which left me still suffering in pain. Many of the officers prevented others from helping me or pushing me in my wheelchair, so I struggled to try to take care of myself. I was given no help from the medical, from NDOC, and that lack of care actually made things worse. There was no one there equipped to deal with me being a stroke survivor, nor did they care. Through my sheer will and necessity, I taught myself how to walk, and I figured out how to take care of myself. It was impossible for me to wheel around with one hand, because I would just go in circles. So I had to figure it out. And I have to tell you, it was much easier to learn how to walk the first time. I didn't get to see my daughter for the entire first year that I was there, due to their visitation rules and approval processes. When I finally did get to see her, she didn't even recognize me. And that was the final straw that broke me. Honestly, I broke a little each day while I was there. But that day I actually died inside. And I had nowhere to turn. I felt hopeless and worthless. And those feelings were constantly reinforced by how women get treated by the guards. And add to that the constant demoralization, because there was no real mental health services for healing of past or current traumas. Then I was released hopeless and worthless and completely broken. No one thought I would ever succeed, and I was left there and told that I would be back. My story is not an isolated incident. Even though I struggled and suffered with constant pain and self-loathing, I was one of the lucky ones because I had family who advocated for me and sent money and found ways to arrange regular visits with my daughter. Many women have no one to help them, which is why this bill is so important and becoming increasingly more important, because women are the fastest growing segment in the U.S. prison population. Nationally, there are more than 8 times as many incarcerated women as there were in 1980, increasing from 12,300 in 1980 to 182,271 by 2002. More than 60% of women in state prisons have children under the age of 18, and more than 80% of women in jails are mothers. Not to mention that menstruation can be a demeaning experience and a barrier to health and security. Incarcerated women are forced to barter, ration, or even beg for the necessary healthcare items.
Okay, so now I think we should go to, we're at Virginia. Courtney, if you'd like to do Virginia. I can keep going too. I'll just keep going in the interest of time. I apologize. So in Virginia, who are known as primary caretakers of minor children in a facility that is closer to allow the parent easier access to visit their children. And they require a stricter reporting time anytime an incarcerated person needs to disrobe in front of a correct different gender. And this also authorizes the director to prescribe reasonable rules regarding visitation with children or primary caretakers. One of the larger parts of the bill that we would like to see come out of committee is no cost to menstrual products. In Arizona, Maryland, Massachusetts, Missouri, Arkansas, Georgia, Tennessee, Louisiana, and Pennsylvania, there is no cost to menstrual products. We heard in the interim committee that some incarcerated women are paying as much as $5 per tampon or pad within the Department of Corrections right now, which is an extreme hardship on themselves and their families. So now I'm going to go over the parts of the bill that will address a lot of these issues for what we would like to do at Nevada correctional facilities. So one of the larger things that women reported to us was that they are not experiencing comfort and personal privacy. So women in custody would be asked or would be mandated to be treated with respect and basic dignity, free from intentional humiliation, including the right to have searches by a correctional officer done with the most comfortable officer available in accordance with the subject's gender. Also be able to shower and perform functions and change clothes without having correctional staff or non-preferred gender view their unclothed private body parts, as well as be treated in accordance with their preferred gender identity or gender expression. Hygiene products are another huge part of the bill that we would like to see come forward. Individuals in custody have the right to receive appropriate and accessible basic necessities free of charge, including but without limitation to clean clothing, undergarments, and socks. Personal hygiene products such as described in Section 4, subsection B, which would include deodorant, soap, toothbrush, toothpaste, or powder, toilet paper, shampoo, incontinence products, and feminine hygiene products. Another very important piece would be medical services. This is to be seen as something that's preventative. We know that women who do not receive regular gynecological exams or mammograms can go untreated for much more serious health problems like cancer. And we have seen even within NDOC, someone receive an irregular pap smear and then come out with cervical cancer. And these kinds of things become more expensive the longer that they're untreated. So this would allow incarcerated individuals to have the option to have access to annual mammogram and gynecological exams, as well as prenatal and postnatal health care and mental health and substance abuse treatment. Going on to harassment and retaliation, we would want to again make sure that they are free from discrimination based on gender identity or sexual orientation, and free from being searched and retaliation, which is something that we have heard happens frequently. Visitation rates, we would like to make sure that regular visits by phone and mail with any children of the incarcerated individual could be increased and without limitation. We'd also like to make sure that people that are on the inside have positive role models on the outside, such as other adults whom the incarcerated individual regards as a mentoring relationship, such as someone who's already been released from incarceration upon approval of the facility. We would also like to see in a large scope a more oversight with the Department of Corrections, and we've seen in other states that they use an ombudsman, which Nevada currently does not have. It's my understanding that an ombudsman could be used for all facilities. And what this person would do is monitor the implementation of policies and receive and review complaints and reports filed with the ability to investigate and resolve those complaints. In Section 5, it explains that the department must adopt a policy outlining the standards of conduct for interactions between a correctional officer and incarcerated individual, pursuant to those described in Section 2. Excuse me. Pre and postnatal care is described in Section 6. It requires facilities who house pregnant individuals to adopt a policy for prenatal and postnatal care. A requirement that incarcerated individuals who are pregnant receive counseling and written materials concerning labor and the care of newborns in the postpartum period, as well as appropriate trauma-informed prenatal health care services, including monitoring and evaluation of the health of the incarcerated individual and the unborn child. A third would be pre and postnatal vitamins, and fourth would be a diet with the appropriate nutrients necessary to maintain healthy as deemed by a medical director. Finally, we would ask that they receive appropriate trauma-informed care, including but not limited to postpartum depression, receiving counseling regarding parental skills, and to be to the reasonable extent to stay with the delivered baby in a safe and secure location for a period not to exceed 30 months if the individual is assigned to a minimum security facility, and for a period appropriate for bonding with the child directly after giving birth with the incarcerated individual. In some states, we see that newborns are allowed to be with their parent for an extended period of time. Right now, it is not the policy of the Department of Corrections to have a newborn with the incarcerated individual for any period of time. So we'd like to see the time extended. That is the bulk of the bill, and I'm sure there are lots of questions. I would like to start questions that we did attempt to reach out to some stakeholder groups and look forward to conversations in the future. I'm prepared to do as much work as possible to get to whatever agreements we need to get to start making some headway for incarcerated individuals who are imprisoned at this moment.
And with that, are you ready for questions?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, Mayor, we are ready for questions.
Okay, thank you. Our first question is from Assemblyman Gray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do applaud you, for bringing forward the stuff on pregnant women and stuff like that, but the majority of the bill before us deals nothing with that. It deals with gender identity. All of the things that I see the Department of Corrections and especially the county jails having a huge issue with. Going to prison or jail or custody is all about having your rights abridged. They're confining you, but treating with respect and dignity. I'm not going to disagree with it, but I also think the victims of their crime should have been treated with the same respect and dignity prior to the crime happening. But what I really have a problem with is I think we're up to at least 17 identity, preferences, expressions. You've got them, you've got he, her, they, them. I don't see where a county is going to be able to meet these requirements, especially a rural county where they're going to have somebody available 24/7 to be able to do that. How do you see the counties being able to achieve this?
Assemblyman Gray, thank you for your question. Chair, through you, I'd like to answer.
Please go direct.
Thank you. Lilith Barron for the record. Assemblyman Gray, thank you for that question. As we know, multiple gender identities have been in existence since ancient Mesopotamia. So this is something we've always had to conquer as a society and had to acknowledge. However, I do understand your question, and I think that what we'd be looking for here is that the individual who is being searched or showering is with the gender that is most comfortable for them, not identical to them. We would have to work on the language to reflect that so that there would be no confusion. But I think that what we would be looking for is that if someone is adversarial to a male officer and they identify as female, that they would be able to change in front of a female officer.
And Lily, if I can add to that, thank you also, Mr. Gray, for your question. Regarding the first section of what you stated, I think that although these folks are getting confined, we think that in order for them to come back into society.
Could you please say your name and state it for the record, please?
Absolutely. Courtney Jones, for the record.
Thank you. Continue.
We think that even though they are, and sorry about my sound not working earlier, we think that even though they are confined, in order for them to come back and be productive citizens, they should have a right in certain areas, and they should have dignity given to them, definitely in certain areas of that confinement. You know, in order for them to come back, and we want them to just reintegrate into society immediately, it's going to be difficult for them if we don't give them the proper precautions, or like Lily said, at least, you know, something close to what they're comfortable with. It's going to be hard for them to come back and respect, you know, even have respect for themselves and the community because they've been treated so undignified. So that is our stance on that.
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Thank you so much, Assemblyman, for your question. I just want to add as well, in our conversations, there is another bill in the Senate that is to really design what that policy looks like, and our bill is meant to be complementary to that. And in our conversations, like my co-presenters have stated, right, it's the gender that's most comfortable with that person. Currently, right now, if you are incarcerated, you are able to request a female officer. However, if it is not an emergency and they don't have those folks available, right, we're talking about a person waiting. And so a lot of what we have discussed with NDOC in this bill is codifying what they're currently doing. So this is not a new crazy bona fide process that we're asking for. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have a question from Assemblywoman Hanson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And good to see you, and I feel for you when technology glitches happen. It's never any fun. So I want to clarify first, we don't have the amendment, so could you maybe tell us, because it will depend what my question is based on the amendment. Are there certain sections that you're striking? Could you give us a feel for what you are amending? And then, if it's okay, Chair, then my question would be more appropriate based on that.
Could you cover that quickly?
Yes, Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Thank you so much for that question. And so there are parts that we are looking at taking out, for example, the yearly exams out of jails and prisons, right? We have two sections. One section is for NDOC, Nevada Department of Corrections, and then we have another section that includes jails and throughout like cities and counties. And so in our discussions, there have been, things that just would not apply to people at a jail that would apply to people in prison, right? And so we are looking to strike that. There is the autobundsman, I can never say that word. We are looking to take that out in our conversations with NDOC, as well as what's feasible, right? And so we're still having those conversations in working groups. Thank you.
Do you still have a question? Thank you. Continue.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so in your collaboration with stakeholders, have there been discussions with the correction officers or the union to, I know you mentioned that we currently have policy where you can request a corrections officer that you feel more comfortable with. Have we talked to female corrections officers? If we're going to deal with female corrections officers having to search or examine those who identify as female but have male biological parts, have we had them in the conversation to see how those females are going to feel about maybe possibly dealing with this situation?
I think I need to ask the question first. Would that individual be in a women's facility?
What transgender person be in a women's facility?
Yes.
That is a great question for NDOC, I think, Director.
So, Director, I don't know if you are willing or interested in approaching to answer some of these questions, because I know there'll be a number of questions. So Director Zarenda, are you able to? Thank you, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And if you could start with the question, would a transgender woman be in a woman's facility?
James Renner for the record. So this is a medical issue that we treat it as 51%. The way medical looks at it, as they start off with the birth identity, and depending on how far along there's some transitions happening, medical would determine whether it's at 51% or more the other direction. That's why I'm not sure what 51% means, but that's how they do it. So if it's 51% more of the other, they go to the different institution of their birth.
Assemblywoman, your question, so again, the question is because the subject right now is a transgender woman in the facility requesting to be examined by a female officer. And that's your question?
Yes, so it sounds like, I don't know if it exists currently. It looks like Director Zarenda's shaking his head no. So my question is, would this bill be a pathway for us to have to consider all of this? That we would possibly have a biological, when I talk about the body parts, a transgender woman in female prisons because it sounds like Section 2 is dealing with that possibility. So I'm just trying to have better understanding of the intent of the bill as we progress forward. And I certainly get all the other things about, women with children, having babies, having, people on the outside being able to come in and help with parenting skills, all of that. I'm just trying to understand kind of how we deal with this aspect of it, because it's a lot to kind of unpack here.
And first, I'd like to say the intention of the bill is not to change who or where individuals are being placed or incarcerated. So I know that's not the intention. So, Director?
Yeah, James Renner for the record. So really to answer Assemblywoman Hansen's question, there's nothing in a union contract that requires the correction officer to identify their gender identity or expression. So that's where the issue would be, is if they ask for a male, it may not be the male expression or gender identity of the correction officer. So it's not built into the union contracts.
And right now, the issue is because we have more so men checking women, correct? Okay. Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblywoman Bilbray Axelrod.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. And my question actually is to the director as well. I think you're more probably be able to answer this one easier. In the very last section, right before Section 3 begins, personal hygiene products are laid out without limitation to soap, deodorant, toothbrush, toothpaste, powder, toilet paper, shampoo, incontinence products, and feminine hygiene products. I know we laid out that we are charging for feminine hygiene products. Are we charging for those other items?
James Renner for the record. No, in feminine hygiene products, we do provide napkins for free, feminine napkins. The tampons are actually purchased through commissary. And if you're indigent, these items are free. Anything that was listed on here, whether it's socks, underwear, clean clothes, toothpaste, I don't know what tooth powder is, but toothpaste, toothbrush, soap, shampoo, those are all provided to every single offender for free. And upon intake, and then for further on, if they're considered under the indigent policy, they're still giving it to it free. However, these are items that are purchased through the commissary.
Director, how many pads is a woman provided? How many free pads?
James Renner for the record. I believe it's unlimited, but I don't know that for a fact. I could respond to that on the next time.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That would be very helpful. Our next question is from Assemblywoman Gallant.
Thank you, Chair. So I'm kind of parroting my colleagues as well. Like the women's aspect of this bill, I think is fantastic. My concern is with the gender identity. It's really opening up a huge cost, most likely, and maybe setting some benchmarks that are not going to be attainable, especially in those rural areas. So maybe we know what is the population of trans in prison system, like jail and prison system.
So James Renda, for the record, right now we have 3 trans women and we have 6 trans men. I'm just not sure where they are at this time, where their locations are. But that's usually about the average number. It doesn't usually we don't get large numbers, but that's identified, that's what we have.
And hold on. And Director, as you stated before, for these 9 individuals, their placement would have been based on after a medical review and recommendation, correct?
James Renda, for the record, that is correct.
Okay, thank you. Continue.
I'm just wondering if this legislation is a little far-reaching in terms of trying to assist with the trans movement and incarceration, like just the cost of it for such a small group of people that are in it. I mean, I had a very wise incumbent tell me we don't make legislation for just one or few people, like it needs to hit a far greater population. So I'm just, would you see this moving forward if we concluded the transgender and the gender identity and your ability to be able to operate?
Cecilia Gonzalez, for the record, District 16, thank you so much. I definitely don't want to lose sight of what this bill is, and it's to provide dignity and respect to incarcerated women. Yes, there is a section in there that includes having respect to a person's gender identity. We are working on that section. However, this is not a transgender bill. This is not a requirement for NDOC to hire transgender people. As we've previously stated, right, it's the gender that is most comfortable for them. So if the person would like a male or female officer that they are requesting that is comfortable to them, they should have a right to have that officer. So there's no requirement that NDOC has to go and hire transgender people. There's no requirement for rural people to do that. What we are asking is for that person's comfortability level to be taken into consideration when they are being searched, when they're being maybe transported. Like I said, there's another bill that deals with and is attempting to get at those policies. This is not that bill. Thank you.
So to clarify, would it be more like in the airport, and for some reason I always have to get, even with pre-check, right? Would it be then when, they always offer, and generally the practice, they have a woman always there on standby. I mean, these days we always have men and women there as we're going through security. But, they ask certain questions. Would you like to go, in private? Are you okay here with us patting you down? Is it more that type of scenario where a person would be able to say, I'd be more comfortable if a woman searched me or patted me down? Is that more what it is as opposed to a requirement, but just the ability for a person to ask?
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16, for the record. Madam Chair, yes, that is correct. Like I said, currently, incarcerated people are able to have that. So right now, if I was a woman incarcerated in Florence McClure and there was a male officer who needed to do a search, I could request that I wanted a female officer. That's not changing any of this. And we recognize that, right? All of us up here know when we submit something and get it back, right? It's not necessarily aligned with the intent or the language that we were seeking, right? And so we are aware that we have to amend this bill, and that has been part of that conversation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Our next question is from Assemblywoman LaRue Hatch.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm not sure if this is a question that the director may want to answer, but I just wondered what the current policy is on newborns. I know there's a section saying that they should be housed together if possible. So is that happening? And if it's not, is that a possibility to meet the restrictions of this bill?
James Renda for the record. Currently, when a baby is born with one of the offenders in the system, they're sent to the outside hospital, local hospital for the birth. Within 3 days, the actual baby is removed from the parent. We do not take the babies into the prison system. We don't have the facilities for that. You wouldn't want to put a baby into a cell. It's not appropriate. To make it possible, it would be an enormous fiscal impact because you would have to build some type of apartment or department-like housing that would be more appropriate for a baby being in a correctional facility.
And just to clarify, that's also not the intent of the bill. Could you speak a little more to what the intent of the bill is for women that give birth and so for their delivery and their relationship with the baby, so that we have the clear intent, or even if it's the amended intent? Thank you.
Yeah, Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record. Thank you so much. Our intent is definitely not to have children incarcerated, right? However, we know through research that time with your baby when you're first giving birth is very intimate and special, and we want to make sure that mothers who are incarcerated have those moments where they can have with the baby. As the director said, they're only given, what did you say, 72 hours? They only have 72 hours right now, and so we're looking to extend that time. What that time will be and where is still part of our amendment discussions. However, the intent is not to have these children incarcerated for a certain amount of time, right? That's definitely not the intent. The intent is to allow the mother to bond with their child and to keep that connection so that when they are released, right, because we know 90% of people incarcerated will be coming back home, that they have that connection with their child and that they can keep that connection while they're finishing out their incarceration.
Thank you for that. We have a question from Assemblywoman Hardy.
Thank you, Chair. So my question is also for the director. It's kind of a follow-up to my colleague. So could you just talk about currently what happens, like as far as women's care in the prisons, medical care, mammogram, like what do they receive currently? And then also to Assemblywoman, you mentioned the ombudsman portion. Are you removing all of that? And so if you could speak to that as well. Thank you.
I'll go first with that part. Yes, we are removing that part from the bill. We believe that there's probably a more appropriate vehicle in place for that, and that's not in this one at this time. Thank you. Cecilia Gonzalez for the record.
So James Renda for the record. With mammograms, they are offered, just they're not mandatory annuals or actually set times. They are actually ordered by clinicians, by the physicians, for specific reasons of whether it's questioning something or whether they or have a history. So it's not automatic, it's not for everyone, and it's not annual like it's mentioned.
Thank you. Is it okay to just ask about like just an exam, like a women's exam other than mammograms?
So James Renda for the record, they do have exams. That's all done by medical. It's not specifically by a gynecologist, but the medical do exams, and then if they have regular exams, but it's not a gynecological exam. And if it's required for a gynecologist, that it would be referred based upon something that the clinician actually saw or believed.
Okay, so I would like to clarify that. So if a woman needs a gynecological exam, we commonly, I'll take all those syllables out for you. We call them pelvic exams, okay? If a woman needs a pelvic exam, then that will be performed by a gynecologist. If a woman's just receiving a typical medical health exam or screening, that would be done by a physician or someone else qualified to do that. Is that correct?
James Renda for the record, both of those is correct.
Okay, and so do women receive annual pelvic exams?
James Renda for the record, no.
Okay. Okay, we'll leave that right there for now. Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblyman Urick.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate what sounds like the intent of this bill is to make sure that people are afforded certain levels of dignity and respect. And I think that all individuals, no matter how they identify, should be treated with a level of respect. I'll be honest and say when I read this bill, it seemed to contradict what you're saying the intent of this was as kind of a transgendered expression movement sort of bill that I hear you indicating today is definitely not the intention, and there's been amendments. I had a ton of questions that now I don't know if they're even appropriate to ask. So I guess mine might be more of a request is that sometimes we get amendments submitted like on the eve of a work session. I guess my request would be any amendments to this bill, I don't know if you would be willing to either come back here and maybe answer some questions if it was appropriate. And I don't know, obviously we have to deal with the chair on that, but.
Right.
Or, yeah, exactly. And if that wasn't able to happen, if you would make yourself available for those questions before we had a chance to come back for a work session on this, because there's a lot of issues in here that could be concerning. Like I said, the underlying premise is it's been communicated to give people dignity and respect. I believe in that. But would you be willing to either come back and answer questions if the chair permitted, or at least make sure that we had an amendment to look at so that we can address any concerns before work session?
So Celia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record, thank you so much. Absolutely. I think that we definitely need to meet with every single person when we have an amendment, and I will absolutely make myself available along with Lily, who outside of her being sick has always been in this building as well, and so that is definitely not a crazy request. Thanks.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblywoman Cohen.
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you, Director, for being willing to answer questions, and thank you, Chair, for the question. Director, can you please give us some more information about care of pregnant, incarcerated women, medical care, but also if they're receiving counseling, adoption counseling, abortion counseling, like all of that, and they're also legal counseling in case there are any attempts for possibility of them losing their, custody of their children, that type of thing.
So James Renda for the record, yes, they're giving counseling. It's done by our own medical and mental health staff, pre and post partum. However, legal counseling, no. They not that I know of. They do have access to really just the law library on this for themselves and the law library staff, but it's not really considered under legal advice. When they do with counseling, the counseling department treats, they look over the history of the individual of past traumas, past issues that they may have had related to, it could be either related to their crimes or just past history, but they do the counseling with the medical mental health staff, both of them prior to and after, and case counselors do work with them. We also do work with Health and Human Services to provide some of the counseling that's more specific for individuals. Not sure if that helps.
Yes, proceed.
Okay, thank you for that. So if a woman's pregnant and she's deciding if she wants to look at options for adoption or abortion, or is she kind of on her own, and does she have the ability to receive an abortion while incarcerated?
James Renda for the record. I'm not sure if that's where the other departments come involved in it. That's going to have to be a question I'll have to be able to respond and as a follow-up, because I'm not exactly sure how that happens or what departments actually get involved. That helps.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblywoman Newby.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. This question is for the Director Zorinda. Aside from the mammograms and the pelvic exams, are there other, or maybe you could explain what other annual screenings are given, if any? And I'm thinking, you and I may go to a doctor and get our blood checked annually. If we're of a certain age, then maybe a colonoscopy. if we go to our dermatologist, skin cancer screening, and, for males, maybe testicular cancer screenings. So are those provided as well or not?
So James Renner, for a record, again, that's going to be a question I'm going to have medical follow up on, because it's more, a lot of the things you might have mentioned, like the skin doctors and all that, it's all done on the exams that from the regular physician, and then it gets referred to. But to have it as, if there's any mandatory or annuals, that'll have to be listed out by medical, because I'm not 100% sure all the annuals that are done.
So, okay, thank you, Assemblywoman. So I would like that as well, just so that we have, and really, I would like to take the liberty and ask if we could just have that information for everyone that's incarcerated, male, female, and just kind of what medical services, annual precautionary services they are receiving, because we know that, medically, when it comes to gender, there's certain recommendations, right? We also know now that Assemblywoman Newby mentioned colonoscopy, there's also certain recommendations based on age. And so just if we could get an idea on preventative health, because really that's what the majority of this at this point is we're talking about prevention. And so if you could submit that information to the committee on what is provided to those incarcerated. And I know we've had long discussions about this before as well, so if we could get that information, that would be very helpful. With that, we have a question from, we have two quick, brief questions. Well, actually three, I should say. So, Assemblywoman Hanson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for another shot at this. And I want it to be clear that I completely think it's important that we address some of the examinations, the health care provided. From my prior experience, I have had some deep concerns over adequate medical attention, regardless of gender. That there have been some serious, according to some of my constituency, that I have kind of made appeals to Department of Corrections in the past. And knowing that there is definitely some need for correction, pardon the pun, and reform, so to speak. And I'm so grateful that we have Director Zorinda here in our state again to help us with that. And it sounds like that's a path that he's looking at going forward on. Director Zorinda, on we talk about in the bill, specifically in Section 17, Assemblywoman Gonzalez, we talk about having some counseling or parenting help, these kind of services for mothers. Completely on board for that. And I know in a previous hearing, Director Zorinda, you mentioned that we have a lot of volunteer groups that are just chomping at the bit to be involved. I am aware of several that have reached out to me, especially in Southern Nevada. And are we going to be able to maybe get there, whether through this bill or not, to provide mothers, women, with the resources that might be specific to their needs through some of these volunteer groups? Is that something, I think I recall you saying that you would really like to see us utilize volunteer, not-for-profit groups be able to help with our prison population?
So James Renner, for the record, we are already in the process of starting this, motherhood and fatherhood programs, both. And yes, that's where the majority is going to be out of the volunteer services, and it's going to be a lot easier even to get the ex-offenders in there that have been successful mothers, fathers, that we can get in to actually help with teaching and training and getting people on the right path with motherhood and fatherhood.
Thank you so much. Assemblyman Gray?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. Sorry, thank you, ma'am. Director Zender, when you're looking into the chair's question regarding abortion, can you also find out if if they do have access to them, who's actually paying?
Assemblyman, I did not ask a question about abortion.
I thought it was you that.
No, I did not ask a
Sorry,
question
whoever
about
had asked
abortion.
whichever assembly person asked about that, if you could find out who is paying for them as well. Thank you.
Assemblywoman Considine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This question is for the Director of Corrections, and I don't know if you would know this, but if not, I would like to know the answer to it. I believe that if if a woman gives birth and the baby is taken away from her 72 hours or wherever, if there is a termination of parental rights hearing, that is something that they are provided an attorney for in Clark County, but I don't know how that works statewide. I do know that, not going out too far of this, but connecting to the bonding of the mother and the baby and it going to a foster family and that whole process, are they provided an attorney, and if you know how quickly that happens for statewide? Thank you.
So James Render for the record. I'm sorry, but that's going to be one of those things I'm going to have a follow-up on. I'm not sure the whole process with that between HHS and the other agencies that actually are involved in this whole process, but I could find out.
Thank you. And Chair, may I ask a quick follow-up?
Sure.
And in cases where that is offered, are those attorneys allowed to enter the prisons to meet with their clients, or are those things that are only done over video? Thank you.
James Render for the record. We don't turn away any attorney, so if it's the individual's attorney, they can do either by phone or come into the actual facilities.
Okay, with that, and I don't see any additional questions right now, I will open it up for testimony. So anyone here in Las Vegas that would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 292, please, we'll start here in Carson City first.
Good morning, Chair Miller and committee members. My name is Nick Shepak, Nickshepak. I am the State Deputy Director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center. We want to thank the sponsor for bringing forth this bill and the stakeholders for the work they're putting in to find an amendment that works. From our organization's perspective, we have done research for the last few years on the cost of incarceration, including the cost of medical and the cost of products such as hygiene and feminine hygiene products. While it is true that some of these feminine hygiene pads are provided at no cost to incarcerated individuals, it is almost with 100% consistency that we have heard that these are of extremely low quality and not enough are provided. The feminine hygiene products that are at the commissary are subject to the same 66% markup as everything else in the commissary. It is probably the most expensive place in Nevada to buy a box of tampons would be inside of NDOC. So this bill works to address that issue. It's an issue we worked on addressing in schools when we had that amazing presentation last session, and we hope to see that portion of the bill move forward. We also have deep concerns with the lack of preventative care throughout the entire Nevada Department of Corrections. What we find consistently is that individuals incarcerated at NDOC end up seeing doctors after they have serious problems or more advanced issues. This requires outside attention, which that cost is often passed on to the incarcerated individual, and it often follows them once they leave incarceration and they leave with debt. We believe that ensuring these types of preventative care would ensure that we catch those issues early, that they can be treated and would not cost either the incarcerated individual, their families, or the state the financial burden that we now see. For those reasons, we hope that this bill is amended in a way that those make it through and that you all support. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chair Miller and committee members. For the record, my name is Matilda Guerrero. That's MATHILDA GUERRERO, and I'm here on behalf of Battle-Born Progress. We are in unwavering support of Assembly Bill 292, and we thank Assemblywoman Gonzalez for spearheading this critical measure. During the 2021 session, this body unanimously voted to place free feminine hygiene products in school bathrooms. And just right outside of this committee, there's free feminine hygiene products in the bathrooms. This bill is a common sense measure that moves the Silver State closer to ending period poverty while moving closer to menstrual equity. A study found that about 54% of women living in the Department of Corrections claimed that they don't have access to enough menstrual products. Rather than having to improvise using toilet paper or other forms of unhygienic products that could potentially cause harm, they should be provided with free menstrual products. As elected officials, it's your responsibility to champion every single Nevadan's unique priorities and needs, from respecting and honoring someone's gender identity, equipping them with the supplies and health care that they need, while also learning how to best serve them, which aligns with the precedent set forth by Faith v. Steuben County. Having a period isn't optional. These products aren't optional. They're required health care for folks with uteruses, and that's why we're urging this committee to vote yes. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Vanessa Dunn with Bells and Case Government Affairs. It's VANESSADUNN. And I'm here today on behalf of NAMI Nevada. Robin Reedy had an emergency, and so she could not be here today, but she did want to make sure that she expressed her support, or the organization did, and that's National Alliance on Mental Illness. So thank you so much.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Tess Opferman, here on behalf of the Nevada Women's Lobby. That's Tess, T-E-S-S, Opferman, O-P-F-E-R-M-A-N. We are in support of this bill. I know there will be an amendment that comes forward, so we hope the committee is willing to work through this bill. It's complicated and there's a lot of questions at this point, but I also think there are some really, really important aspects of this bill. One of which is certainly the menstrual hygiene product aspect. We as women know this is not a privilege to have menstrual hygiene products. This is a necessity. We know women in prison are given a certain number of pads. These are low quality pads, and tampons and additional pads are at a cost to this woman. That's an unfair burden on women for a necessary product that they need. We also feel very strongly that women should get adequate health exams while they're in prison. This would be yearly pelvic exams, mammograms. These are, again, necessities for women. These are not privileges, and this should be automatic. And we also appreciate the efforts to ensure that women have access to their children after childbirth. I know that this is a complicated portion of the bill and will need some work, but as we all know, children need access to their mothers and their parents. This is something that will help in the long term for that children and help through, prevent generational poverty, prevent incarceration in the future. And so that's another key part of this bill, and we are so grateful for this hearing this morning and look forward to future conversations to try to work this through during this session in the 80-ish days to come. So thank you so much.
John Puro from the Clark County Public Defender's Office, JOHN-PIRO. We support this measure as well. We think it's an important step forward, and we're grateful for the Assemblywoman and the ACLU bringing this forward, and for Director Zarenda for working on this issue. We think it's very important that when we incarcerate somebody that we do honor their dignity, we do take care of them, and we do take care of their medical needs so that they come out better than when they went in. That's always the goal, that somebody goes in for that one time, they come out, we don't see them again. That's always all of our goals when we're working in this system. We think that this would go a long way. When we look at somebody and we give them the dignity that they deserve, we treat them like humans. When they come out, they're better for it. And so we're grateful for this. We hope that we can work through the issues with the bill and then move this legislation forward. Thank you.
Tanya Brown, TONJA, BROW, and Advocates for the Inmates and the Innocent. We echo the previous comments made here today. We do look forward to seeing what this amendment is going to be, and we hope that you take some of our concerns into this amendment, so I will go into what some of our concerns would be other than what they've stated.
So Ms. Brown,
But
remember
I am in
the
support.
rules of the
Correct.
committee, you have to support the.
I am in support. I am in support.
Okay.
And I do agree that the health care is a huge issue, and I don't know if any of you know this, but I lost a brother because of lack of medical care. That's the reason he died. Okay, so that is a great concern. The discussion of the women, the having a child. Now, I do know of someone, not in Nevada, but in another state, who was impregnated by a prison guard after about 2 years inside. Her baby was taken away, and she had never quite been the same. So I just want you to understand how important it is for a mother who has given birth to have that bonding, and a minimum of a week of bonding with at least every week visitation, 8 hours a day, if not more, until the child is at least a year old. This is something that I think would be instrumental to the newborn, to the mother and to the newborn baby. Anything else I think would be detrimental. And I guess that's pretty much what I want to say, other than we do echo the other comments. Thank you.
Good morning. Barry Cole, Barrycole. A couple of points I'd like to bring up. I'm in support of the bill, but there may need to be an...
Okay, again, I'm going to ask that, and I know it's difficult because there's been a lot of discussion that there will be amendments, but I'm asking that support for the concept of the bill.
I am in support of the concept of the bill.
Without suggestion, please, because...
It's impossible.
Okay, so would you like to change your testimony to maybe neutral, but it is...
No, I'm actually trying to say that to be able to do what the behavioral health requirement will require should require that there be something akin to what California currently does, that in the final 2 months, month before pregnancy, time of delivery, 1 month postpartum, there will be defined screening for suicidality. That's the Columbia Suicide Risk Assessment, and that's now required, and it can be embedded into electronic medical records so that you have to do that.
Okay, so with that, again, the two suggestions of this current and the last testimony, I would like to move both of those to neutral. And also with that, I also invite you to talk to the bill sponsor, because I know the bill sponsor is still working on this and happy to take any suggestions, okay?
Okay, so stop.
I mean, you're in neutral right now. You are not in support. So if you would like to quickly wrap it up, that would be fine, but do know this testimony is being accepted in neutral.
Okay, I'm in support of the bill because of its dignity issues, because of its trying to align with what people's perceptions are, and then just have a few suggestions.
Okay, thank you. And that testimony will be accepted in neutral. Anyone else for support of the bill here in Carson City? Not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, anyone on the phone lines for support of AB 292?
Moment, Chair. Callers, if you'd like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 292, please press *9 now to take your place in the queue.
Good morning. My name is Jody Hocking, Jodihockking. I'm the founder and executive director of Return Strong. We're here today in support of AB 292. We understand that there are amendment discussions around this bill and hope to be part of those. Ultimately, though, the heart of this bill is to focus on the specific needs of women who enter jails and prisons. Assemblyman Gray made a comment a few minutes ago about prison being designed to be a place where people are restricted and lose their rights. I'm going to address that because
Excuse
I
me,
believe it's really what we were
excuse me,
problem with
caller. We're not going to address,
Yes.
okay, so we're not addressing assembly members. What I'm asking you to do is testify
Okay,
in
sorry.
support of the bill as presented.
Yep, we are in support and believe that prison is a place where people are held for a crime they were convicted of, and that their punishment, not their loss of freedom, not their loss of humanity and dignity, are really what they are there for. We are in support and believe that this bill brings humanity and dignity to women who are in prison, is critical and urgent, and can be a necessary step towards changing the trajectory of what prison looks like in Nevada. We're in support of AB 292 and look forward to working with the bill sponsor.
Thank you. Next caller.
Good morning.
Sir, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good morning. For the record, Attar Hasibullah, first name spelled Athar, last name spelled Hasseebullah. I'm the Executive Director for the American Civil Liberties Union of Nevada. I want to thank the sponsor for bringing forward this bill, and I'm calling in strong support of this bill, but also wanted to provide an additional element of consideration for this body. I believe Assemblywoman Gallant had astutely mentioned that the passing of legislation is designed to benefit the most amount of people in the state. And while I represent an organization dedicated to the opposite, which is generally the rights of those whose civil liberties are violated, who generally fall within the minority, that includes the incarcerated and subsets of that group, including incarcerated women. So I'd urge this body to actually support this legislation because it does in fact have a significant impact on a wide number of people in Nevada and taxpayers throughout the state. Per Chair Miller's question and Director Zarenda's response, pelvic exams have not been an annual guarantee in Nevada prisons. And as problematically as that's been, we are now investigating ongoing scenarios of individuals who have received such exams, had irregularities, were not given any follow-up exams or treatment, and ended up with cervical cancer. The long-term challenges associated with providing medical care because preventative treatment and annual examinations aren't provided are going to cost this state and its taxpayers significant resources. And this body requiring such exams may save the state significant costs in treatment and in litigation expenditures long-term to ensure that individuals who have had such irregularities are given such treatment. Accordingly, I'd urge this body to figure out a way to get this bill passed and save Nevadans money, but more importantly, save Nevadans lives. Thank you.
Next caller.
Hello, my name is Yesenia Moya, Yesenia Moya. I am a local community member and I am in full support of AB 292. As somebody who's had family members, friends, and other community members taken away from them due to incarceration, I know from my experiences and those experiences that this bill is not asking for too much. This bill is actually asking for the basic minimum that anybody can ask for to live with some form of dignity. And this bill will equip our folks with the tools, resources, and services they need to successfully return to their families and communities. It's too often that our most vulnerable folks are the most marginalized and have the least amount of access. We know that mass incarceration is an issue in this country, as well as systemic racism, and we must begin the journey to roll back the harm that these systems in particular have put into our communities. I please beg you to pass this out of committee. And again, I am in full support of AB 292. Thank you.
Good morning, Erica Roth, ERICAROTH, on behalf of the Washoe County Public Defender's Office, here testifying in support of AB 292. We heard a lot of statistics this morning, and I want to add just a few more when we're thinking about this issue. Between 1980 and 2020, the number of incarcerated women in the United States increased by more than 475%. The Sentencing Project conducted a review of California prisons and found that 92% of all women in California prisons had been battered and abused in their lifetimes. This reflects the stories of my clients who are often victims, my female clients who are often the victims of domestic violence, sex trafficking, or other abuse and are serving sentences for crimes related to survival. The thought of them entering prison and being denied or unable to obtain basic human dignity by way of menstrual products is really heartbreaking. Denying menstrual products to women is no different than denying adequate food to someone else. It's a basic human necessity. And when we're looking at what's happening in other states right now, lawmakers are bringing bills in other states to ban even speaking about menstruation in schools, but that's simply not the Nevada way. In Nevada, we progress forward with value and dignity. We respect all people, including those who are incarcerated, and we treat them with humanity. I believe this bill is a step forward in that direction, and I'm in full support. Thank you.
Good morning. This is Brooke Maylaff calling. Thank you for hearing my comments. To the committee, please don't overthink the language of the transgender information in here. It is simple human rights. I call attention to the case of Faith v. Steuben County. It was Steuben County, New York, where the basic civil rights of an individual were violated. And this is a very rural county in the state of New York. The ACLU and the Transgender Legal Defense and Education Fund represented Jenna Faith in this case against Steuben County, and the sheriff ended up with creating a wonderful model policy that's very easy to be able to follow in conjunction with the settlement with Steuben County for the violation of both 8th and 14th Amendment rights for Jenna Faith. Not only was the policy adhered to and changed, but there was also a $60,000 settlement going to the plaintiff just on basic humanity issues. Approving this bill is the right thing to do. But fiscally, responsible people will also see that, the open-ended liability that exists for prisons and jails for not enacting something like this is also just fiscally irresponsible. So I will be able to get this settlement agreement and the policy to the committee. Please review at your leisure and vote for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Next caller.
Hi, my name is Jerry Burton. Do we spell our name? It's Jeriburton. And I am the co-executive director of the Nevada chapter of the National Organization for Women. I'm calling in strong support of AB 292. First, I want to thank Assemblywoman Gonzalez for her sponsoring this bill and working with us. We've been working in coalition with Mass Liberation of Nevada and ACLU Nevada and Return Strong and other advocates for over a year, listening to currently and formerly incarcerated people, women, learning what reforms are needed in Nevada jails and prisons. And we've heard that they're not treated with dignity and respect. There's little to no access to health care. Women told us they'd come out of prison with cancer and severe health problems due to lack of basic health care screening, therefore needing more period products, which is what we started our questioning about, and learned that there's so much more needed than just more period products. They're told they're not receiving menstrual products beyond a few pads a month, and there's punishment if someone, an incarcerated person, gives a pad to them. Appropriate amount of other basic healthcare items, as we talked about, shampoo, toothpaste, soap, are not provided. They get a very small amount. We heard that pregnant people lack prenatal and postnatal care, that women are saying contraceptives are needed, and that women have been sexually assaulted. when incarcerated is getting pregnant. So was a shocking issue. We've heard that from the Department of Corrections, or that the Department of Corrections needs training to protect the safety and dignity of transgender people, and it's just basic dignity. Incarcerated women face systems and policies that are designed for men. Prisons and jails are not equipped to provide resources or address the challenges of incarcerated women and trans people. Nevada's been a leader in equal rights, recently adding an equal rights amendment to our Constitution that we are so proud of. And because of our Nevada State ERA, incarcerated people are guaranteed their rights even in a prison system. We ask that you support AB 292. Thank you.
Broadcasting, is there anyone else on the line to offer support for AB 292?
Yes, Chair. One moment while we look into you.
Okay, thank you.
Caller with the last three digits, 614. You are unmuted on our end. Can you please press *6 to unmute your phone? You may begin.
Good morning, Chair Miller, Vice Chair Marzola, and members of the committee. My name is Michelle Mayese, Michellemaese. I'm the president of SEIU Local 1107, which represents 11,000 nurses and healthcare professionals. We thank the bill sponsor for bringing this bill forward, and we are testifying in support of Assembly Bill 292. We believe that no one should have to go without health care or be rejected on the basis of their permanent or temporary living arrangement. We believe all people, especially women, must have access to quality health care, including hygiene products at no cost, protection for pregnancy, mental health and substance use treatments, as well as language access while incarcerated. On a side note, I'm also a supervisor with Family Services, and I will tell you, a lot of times we have women and children separated from women being in prison. And it's very helpful when mothers can take mental health treatments and substance use services while incarcerated, because that doesn't delay ASPA guidelines with redefining families. SEIU will continue to fight with our partners for healthcare for all, including a healthcare system that works for all. AB 292 aligns with SEIU Local 1107's vision of dignity and respect for all people, including healthcare for all, language access for all, and fostering an inclusive community. Thank you very much, and I urge your support for Assembly Bill 292.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Christine Saunders. That's CHRISTINESAUNDERS, and the Policy Director with the Progressive Leadership Alliance in Nevada, here in support of Assembly Bill 292. Plan's almost 40 member group organizations voted to prioritize AB 292 this session because it directly addresses the concerns we have heard from incarcerated women. We've heard countless stories of women who are unable to afford basic necessities such as pads, tampons, and who lack access to the preventative screening provided in reproductive health exams and prenatal and postpartum care. We urge you to support this bill and ensure dignity for incarcerated Nevadans. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. My name is Tamara Favors, TAMARAFAVORS for the record, and I'm a community member in North Las Vegas, living in Senate District 18 and Assembly District 13. I am in support of this bill because it will ensure that all women and all gender nonconforming folks who are incarcerated will be treated with dignity and equipped with tools, resources, and services they need to be successful to return for their families and communities. It is often that our most vulnerable folks are the most marginalized and will have the least amount of success. We know mass incarceration is an issue in the country, and we must begin the journey to roll back the harm for these systems, and I urge you to pass AB 192, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Jessica Holly, Jessica. Last name is Hollie. I'm a longtime resident of Las Vegas, Nevada, and a previously incarcerated person. I think while we're talking about the women who are currently incarcerated now, we forget that they do come home and they are also voters and tax-paying citizens. I think that I'm speaking in support of this bill, obviously, and I think that all of this is very common sense, and it's only an extension or an attempt to guarantee the constitutionally protected rights that are afforded to all citizens of this country, regardless of their current living situations. And if they are in custody of the state, that they should be afforded those same opportunities or medical access that they would be if they were living, as citizens with or without insurance. They'd be able to have mammograms, pap smears. They'd be able to have basic medical care, and they'd be able to do that without feeling like they're a burden on anyone, including a financial burden on the state. So I think we should kind of not focus on the gender identity section of the bill. Clearly, this is something that we are all figuring out as a society in 2023, how to most effectively address that issue. However, that's pretty irrelevant. Like, regardless of whatever their gender identity is, and regardless of their living situation, they should still be afforded adequate medical care. They should still be treated like human beings. And they're going to be citizens, voters, and taxpayers. So you shouldn't discount them. Thank you.
Hello, good morning to Chair and members of the board, and happy Monday. My name is Mark Betancourt, MarkBettencourt, for the record. I'm here today on behalf of the Nevada Coalition Against the Death Penalty. We're here today just because we are supportive of this bill. We believe it is strong policy. I will echo the comments of the folks who've been in support already this morning, and just say, as the son of a formerly incarcerated mother, this is an important step towards realizing dignity for women and all people in the care of the Nevada Department of Corrections. Thank you so much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jamila Lewis, Jameelah, last name Lewis, Lewis. I am calling in support of this bill, for one, being the PRIA advocate for the state, hearing lots of testimonies from people in local and in state prisons about the lack of specific mental health services, as well as access to hygiene products is not okay. I'm specifically thinking about folks who are trans. There not being a lot of services for people who are female to male trans folk in the NDOC justice system right now, and this is an actual problem when we're thinking about having access to reproductive services for people, regardless if they're incarcerated or not. Along with, and I want to expand on the things that I'm supporting as well, is also this bill will support language access, which I think is really important when we think about not only the population we serve as a state, but also in communities, specifically in Southern Nevada. That's why I'm in support of AB 292, and I hope that you all will also support folks who are currently incarcerated, and also, as one person said, people who are going to be re-entering our community. I also think it's important to think about the costs that this has on families who have to send in money to their loved ones so that they can be able to afford hygiene products, in comparison to if the state, who these folks are wardens to, are able to provide those hygiene products and menstrual products. So thank you so much for your time, and I will pass it on.
Callers, if you have recently joined and would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 292, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you have recently joined and would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 292, please press star 9 now.
Hello,
My name is Courtney Jones, COURTNEY JONES. I am here on behalf of Advocates for Youth. I'm in support of this bill as it stands because I believe those incarcerated deserve to leave in good health, mental and physical. Many people have already expressed concerns about the medical aspects, including suicidal ideation being a huge issue in postpartum. So this bill must find a way through it because the organizing of this bill has to be heard. The organizers of this bill have heard numerous stories, widespread stories of incarceration becoming a death sentence for people. It even goes that far. So we're supposed to be building these folks up when they go in there, right? They commit crimes and we want them to come back out, but instead we're breaking them down in numerous areas of their well-being by the time that they're released. Incarceration for women in Nevada and around the country continues to rise. Feel free to take a look at the Prison Policy Initiative online. Our state statistics and those around the country are on there. In my own research, I found the Mom and Babies program at the Decatur Correctional Center in Illinois. It's a prison, nursery, and community reentry program. It allows incarcerated mothers to keep their newborn babies.
Ma'am,
I
need you to speak. I need you to speak to the bill that was presented today here in Nevada.
Yes, absolutely. I only mention that because I'm saying it's just demonstrated success. So just to close out, the women who are in our own communities, these people are our mothers, our aunts, and most importantly, they're their own people who deserve the right to experience moments of joy and peace in their person and with their children. So I'm in support of this bill, and I hope you all can make it happen to get it passed.
Also, ma'am, could you, we missed for the record which organization you're representing?
Advocates for Youth.
Advocates for Youth. Okay, thank you so much. Next caller.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. For the record, my name is Sean Navarro, Navarro. I'm a community member. I live in Assembly District 34. I don't want to repeat some of the points made today, but I want to call in support of AB 292. I think those incarcerated deserve the basic dignities that all people deserve, and we should think of these folks as people that have been rehabilitated and will re-enter our community and not try to make their stay as pleasant as possible. I want to echo someone said that there's no loss of freedom is punishment. They shouldn't be put up to punishment such as lack of basic health care. Thank you so much.
Thank you, caller.
Hello, my name is Genevieve Gutierrez Lynch. I am calling on my own personal capacity as a caring community member and a person who studied women's reproductive health in the university and researched that. I'm also a licensed foster parent. As someone who cares about the community, I would say that this bill is absolutely imperative to be passed. AB 292 absolutely ensures the socioeconomic success of not only women, but their children moving forward. It will have a massive ripple effect on our community as a benefit. And I would say as a personal experience of a woman who birthed 2 children with only 1 living child, being separated from your child is absolutely detrimental to not only the woman's mental health, but the child's well-being as well. So if we're expecting these folks to be fruitful participants of our community and society, we really need to set them up, not only the women, but their children as well, for success. And that begins with one's personal health. So I would urge this body to be in support of and pass AB 292. It will have a massive impact, not only for the women, but their children and the futures that they might be successful at.
Good morning, Chair and members of the committee. My name is Ashley Gaddis, Gaddis. I am a formerly incarcerated woman and was at Florence McClure and JCC during my incarceration. I am now a staff member with Return Strong and I'm here to support AB 292 and Assemblywoman Gonzalez for bringing such an important piece of legislation. So often women and their needs are forgotten in the scheme of all the work that is done on prison reform, and we do have specific needs that go unaddressed. This bill takes a courageous step moving in doing that forward. So I have a couple of concerns that I'd like to express here. Often we end up with staff that transfer from men's facilities that then approach and treat women with a harshness that additionally harms women and who come to prison often as a victim of abuse and domestic violence themselves. If prison is to be corrective and not punishment, and we want women to home to their families and children and communities, skilled and whole, then we need staff to be trained in appropriate working with women. I have personally experienced male officers that have worked at the men's prisons coming to Florence McClure, and their attitude and behavior towards the women was unprofessional. They bully and harass. I would actually describe it as horrific and trauma triggering. It is factual that women have specific medical needs that go unnoticed and untreated until it is too late. We have a member right now who has a lump in her breast who has been unable to get a mammogram to have it appropriately diagnosed. We don't get pap smears and mammograms regularly and other medical screenings that can help us keep us healthy. When a woman has a medical issue and asks for intervention, it can take up to 1 to 2 years to be seen. A sentence shouldn't be a death sentence because you were in prison and left undiagnosed. I do want to make sure I also touch up on the issue of hygiene products and sanitary products. Currently, the women are afforded 18 menstrual pads per month. So to give you a visual on that, that's 2.5 pads for a 24-hour period. Imagine you or someone else who has a heavy cycle. What does that look like? What does that mean? Yes, we have an opportunity to ask a CO for additional pads, but then we get questioned and we have to, just go through all this extra questioning by a CO and usually get denied those additional pads. I'd also like to state my experience of giving birth while at Florence McClure. A couple of issues there. I had a C-section, and I was housed across the prison, so I was required to walk across the prison to go to the pill call line and get my post-op medication, which was completely inhumane. I was not afforded special visitation with the father as he would have brought my daughter, but because he was not on my visitation list, I was unable to establish a bond with my child, which I now know is greatly needed. Again, thank you to everyone who worked on bringing this bill to the table. I am personally in support and representing Return Strong, and we are in support of AB 292 and all the work to bring the needs of women in prison in Nevada to the forefront and provide dignity and respect for incarcerated women. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Valerie Thomason. I'm a community member and I'm in support of this bill. I was incarcerated here as a teenage girl for marijuana, a victimless crime for which I received lifelong trauma that did not rehabilitate me. The embarrassment and the degradation that I experienced in the juvenile detention centers made me worse, and it led to more addiction. It did not make me better. Many incarcerated people have committed victimless crimes and are guilty of nothing besides addiction or poverty. And further, nowhere in the Constitution or any policy has the public ever given consent to use humiliation and degradation as a form of justice. I ask you to think about the needs of the incarcerated as equal to the needs of all other constituents, because they are your constituents. And they're not just prisoners, they're human beings. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to remind everyone to please state and spell their name for the record. Broadcasting, is there any additional callers?
Callers, if you've recently joined and would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 292, please press *9 now.
Good morning, committee members. My name is Teresa Yancey, and I am calling in full support of AB 292, the Dignity for Incarcerated Women bill. As we know, women are the creators of life. They're the glue that holds these families together, and they do this with a great deal of strength and resolve. And women are most often the primary caregivers to their children and those who are elderly in their families. They are responsible for empowering and teaching the next generation. And so ensuring incarcerated women receive proper mental health, prenatal care, and overall health care is pertinent to her and her family's overall success upon release. As one of your constituents, I urge you to please vote in favor of the Dignity for Incarcerated Women bill, because the lives of women are at stake, but especially those who are incarcerated. And if we provide those women with the instruments they need to flourish, their successes, once reunited with their families, will be astounding. Thank you.
Sarah, there are no other callers to testify in support at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. With that, I will open it up to anyone in opposition of AB 292. So those here in Carson City, if you would like to approach, again, please say your name and spell it so we have it correct for the record.
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. Adrian Hunt, A-D-R-I-A-N-H-U-N-T. I am police detective representing Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. We oppose this bill as written due to multiple concerns of language in this bill. To name a few, current law prohibits cross-gender strip searches. There are federally established best practices related to the treatment of inmates in the correctional settings dictated by the Prison Rape Elimination Act, which we follow. We have constitutional concerns regarding the creation of an ombudsman and potential interference this position creates with bargaining agreements and union laws, and we appreciate the Assemblywoman's intent to potentially remove this. While we appreciate the importance of mothers and children bonding, a jail facility is not a safe place for children. Jails do not have medical on site to assist with medical needs. The Clark County Detention Center has spent a tremendous amount of time to create a robust video visitation system which is available to inmates and their families. We are opposed of AB 292, but we look forward to working in concert with Assemblywoman Gonzalez.
Good morning, Chair Miller. Good morning, members of the committee. Jason Walker, Jasonwalker, testifying in opposition to AB 292 on behalf of the Washington County Sheriff's Office. For the most part, I think we're already in line with the majority of this bill. We do have a few concerning areas, most notably impact with additional staffing. I am happy to hear that an amendment is due out. We have a meeting with the bill sponsor tomorrow, and I look forward to the discussion.
Good morning, Chair Miller and committee. For the record, my name is Steve Walker. I am representing Lyon County. Due to the unfunded mandate, Lyon County opposes AB 292 as introduced. A fiscal note has been submitted by Lyon County Controller to the LCB. The estimation on the fiscal note is over $800,000.
Okay, so, sir, we're not concerned with fiscal impact here. Are you only opposing the bill because of the fiscal impact, or are there other reasons why you're in opposition to the bill?
There is two reasons: the fiscal impact, and also the fact that Lyon County is trying to hire guards and police officers. They are 36% of their, they are short 36% of their total numbers. They feel that the mandate in here to match the police officer's gender and or orientation would be almost impossible and could also be against discrimination, both from a federal and state level on employment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Miller, members of the committee. Greg Herrera for the record. G-R-E-G-H-E-R-R-E-R-A, and here today representing the Nevada Sheriffs and Chiefs Association. And today we're opposed to AB 292 as written due to the significant physical impacts that will occur if this should pass. Some of the concerns include, or not limited to, and I preface this with saying the presentation that I heard today and the intent, I know vastly differs from the bill that I've read. So rural and county jails, detention facilities have limited staffing available, and would require multiple requirements from sections 13 through 18, which would add burdens to already stretched staffing levels. I'll skip the thing about the ombudsman. I think that's being addressed. And additionally, some of the same jails and facilities do not have the physical plant makeup that would require for separate housing. So in short, we look forward to working with the bill sponsor, and I think we can meet on a lot of these things. The most important one being treating everybody with dignity and respect. There's no question in that area. So thank you.
Good morning, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, David Cherry, Davidcherry, Government Affairs Manager for the City of Henderson. The city does operate the Henderson Detention Facility, so we are here in opposition to the bill as written. However, the discussion around the amendment today has given us a lot of opportunity, hopefully, to work with the sponsor as part of a working group, so we'll look forward to doing that. We do have a fiscal note on the bill as well, and some concerns about the staffing and training requirements. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else here in Carson City that would like to oppose AB 292? Not seeing anyone else. Broadcasting, will you open the phone lines, please?
If you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 292, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you'd like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 292, please press star 9 now.
For the record, Bruce Parks, Bruceparks. This bill is extremely expensive for Nevada taxpayers. It has no provisions for abuse of the provisions by incarcerated persons. For instance, a person that's gender fluid today may say that they're male, tomorrow they're female, and the day after that they're a jellyfish. It does not
excuse
define
me,
how
sir.
many genders there are.
Sir, please let's be respectful of other people when giving your testimony, please. Continue.
I am being respectful.
All right,
I'm
next caller.
stating fact.
Next
I
caller.
can identify.
Callers, if you've recently joined and would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 292, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no other callers choosing to testify in opposition at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, I will open it up for testimony in neutral. If there's anyone here in Carson City. Again, please remember to say in.
Yeah, this is James Arenda, DZURENDA, Director for the Nevada Department of Correction, testifying in neutral today. There's several areas of this bill that we are already having policy and following. However, there's also areas of this bill we have to look at of possible violations of the Prison Rape Elimination Act of 2012. Segregating or offenders that have gender identity and expressions is actually against the federal law of the Prison Rape Elimination Act. So there's areas of this that really do have to be amended. Looking forward to working with the Assemblywoman Gonzalez and also with interest groups to be able to see what can be done, but just testifying in neutral as of today.
Thank you, Director. Is there anyone else here in Carson City? Broadcasting, will you open the lines for anyone that would like to testify in neutral of AB 292?
Callers, if you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 292, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 292, please press star 9 now. Sir, there are no callers choosing to testify in neutral at this time.
Okay, thank you. With that, I would like to welcome the bill sponsor back up for any final remarks.
Cecilia Gonzalez, District 16 for the record.
Thank you so much for allowing us to present this bill to you. There's obviously a lot of work that needs to be done. However, there are elements throughout this hearing that I've heard from numerous parties that we all agree on, and that is the humanity, the dignity, and the respect of these individuals that are incarcerated. That is the intent, preventative care, and again, dignity and respect. And I want to also preface by saying the origin of this bill isn't from stats or numbers, it's from directly impacted people. And so I just wanted to thank all the folks that were involved in creating this policy and bringing it forth. And I look forward to working with everyone to get to a place where folks can agree and address some of the concerns that were brought forth. Thank you so much. And I also appreciate everyone's patience with technology and folks being sick. It's Monday and it's deadline week. So again, I appreciate you all for allowing us to present this bill. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. And with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing for Assembly Bill 292. The last item we have on our agenda today is public comment. And so again, the phone lines will also be open for anyone that would like to make public comment, just reminding folks that it will not be anything regarding the bill that we just heard, but anything else that's under the purview of this committee. And so with that, is there anyone here in Carson City that would like to make public comment? Not seeing anyone. Broadcasting, is there anyone on the lines that would like to make public comment?
To provide public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Okay, thank you for that. Then with that, I will go ahead and adjourn today's meeting, close public comment, and I will see everyone back at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Thank you. This meeting is adjourned.